very traditional American family. I had 2 loving parents, great extended family, got along wonderfully with them, and we lived in a house. And after that, the tradition sort of goes a little bit awry. I grew up in a great family. I grew up with 2 African American brothers, 2 Korean sisters, and a biological brother. My parents believed in adoption. They believed that adoption was such an important part of life, helping people, wanting to build our family to help others. And in my family, we remain close today. We don't talk every day. We're all over the country. But when we get together, as the picture is up here, we get together and we have nothing but a joyful time. And the topic of joy is something that both excites me, but also concerns me. It concerns me because some of the times when we talk about youth in our country today, I sometimes don't feel that the topic of joy is talked about enough. Luckily for me, I had 2 parents who felt that joy was a huge part of life. My mother thought and saw joy in everything. It could be something that you could never see joy in. She found some way to twist something and say, oh, that's pretty nice. Or looking for something that made her happy. Joy was something that she can see, and to this day still can, in everything. My father, who passed away in 2001, was someone who liked to do joyful things. Loved practical jokes. Loved making others smile. Joy became a big part of our family. One of the things that my mother taught us was this idea that joy is a decision. And when we talk to my mom, and when she talks to us, you can tell that she makes a purposeful decision about joy. And when we think about joy as human beings, we think about the idea that it's how we respond to life. It's something that you need to make a choice with. And so when talking about kids, which we do every day in our profession, this is a topic that we want to bring more of. And in our district, mental health is a big part of that. And joy is something that I think we need to spend more time on. And it's not just about looking at just happy things, but it's really about finding joy in the things that we don't think or don't purposely look at as joyful things. It's about not only looking, but finding joy. And I think as human beings, one of our responsibilities for ourselves is to look for joyful things, joyful experiences, people who make us joyful, or joy that we can extend to others. Doug Lemov in the book Teach Like a Champion 2.0 talks about classrooms, and he talks about the idea that in classrooms you need to have joy, and he calls it the J factor. Because we know as students and we know as teachers that if there is no joy in your classroom, it doesn't matter the topic. It doesn't matter how great your lesson plan is. It doesn't matter how wonderful and how much time you've done to prepare a lesson. What's important is that the joy that you exude and the joy that kids get out of that lesson, that effective lesson that is meaningful. And without joy, that lesson diminishes greatly. Joy is a feeling. It's about extending happiness, bringing happiness to yourself, elation. Something that comes to you or something that you give. And I wonder sometimes if we have forgotten the importance of joy. If I were to ask you, when was the last time you thought about the word joy, not just an experience that made you happy, but the word joy in your daily life, a lot of people would say, well, I really don't think about that word every day. And I'm proposing that we do. I'm proposing that we purposely look for things that make us joyful or opportunities to give others joy. Today, this is a scene that you see throughout the country, and it was actually talked a lot about today. This idea, myself included, that we catch ourselves. We could be at a restaurant, we could be in the grocery store, and this is the scene that we see, or the scene that we're taking part of. Not a very joyful thing. I love technology. I love the power of it. I love using it. But we oftentimes have to think of ourselves all the time, can we be looking for something that is joyful? Can we bring joy into our life? Because joy is not just about things, it's about something that is within each of us. Imagine if I asked you the question of, does anyone here fill up the car with the gasoline in their driveway? Do you have your own gasoline tank to fill your car up? Well, the answer, of course, is no. We go to gas stations. But joy, in many respects, could be the gasoline of life. The ability to be successful in life. Joyful people are successful. Joyful people are healthy. Joyful people succeed. I want to tell you a story that many of you probably know. Steve Mayer was a superintendent in Robbinsville, New Jersey. Very successful superintendent, positive energy. I didn't know Steve. I knew many people who did. I knew of him. And when he was tragically hit by a car, by someone using their cell phone, in 2016, a lot of information came out about Steve. And a lot had to do with the word joy. You see, Steve, one of his big focuses was the idea that as people we're ingrained to think selfishly and not selflessly. And this idea that when we sit there and stare at our phones, or when we sit there in isolation or afraid to talk to people, we sometimes aren't thinking about the opportunity that lies in front of us. And what he would do, much like my parents did in a different way, but what he did was every day when his kids went to school, and they told this story at his funeral, he said, make someone's day today. Every day that they went to school, he told them to do that. In other words, bring joy to someone. Imagine the power of that, not only in our youth, but as adults too. If we purposely thought, purposely made a choice to make someone's day every day, to bring them joy. Again, it's not just about things, it's about what is in us, our power as human beings, our ability as young adults to bring joy to others. One of the things that Steve definitely taught his kids to be is to be conveyors of joy, to bring joy to others, to look for opportunities in people. Recently, we had Dr. George Scott come to our high school and talk to us about healthy kids, healthy parents, and what that meant. And when he talked about all the things that affect our kids in terms of mental wellness, he talked about, if you think about society today, hurt people hurt people. Healthy people don't hurt people. Joyful people help people. Joyful people make people better. Joyful people make someone's day. And this is what I think we need to talk about in schools today. This idea that if we're able to consciously talk about the topic of that three-letter word joy, it will make it ingrained in our kids' head that this is something that should be a natural part of life. It's one of those things that you have to choose every day. Not just talk about it today, and then by Monday we're back at school, we're not thinking about it. It's really to think about that topic of joy. What can I do to either see joy in something or to be joyful to others and to bring joy? Little kids are ingrained and they just exude joy most of the time. Because they don't have that idea in our head when we're doing something, whether we're up on a stage talking to people, or whether we're going to the doctor, or whether we're doing something and say, what could go wrong with this? Oftentimes that's our human reaction. What could go wrong with this? But instead, our job as human beings, and this is something that we use with teachers, but the idea that a teacher's job is to awaken joy in kids. Well, our job as human beings is to awaken joy in each other, is to bring joy to each and every one of us, and to figure out a way that we can share a joyful experience with others. I love this phrase, joie de vivre, a love of life, a love of living. And I think about my middle daughter. My middle daughter, Kenley, I have 3 daughters. 2, 5, and 9. I love them all dearly. Kenley has been said by others that she has a joie de vivre. She loves intensely. She just loves. All she wants to do is bring joy to people. And when she feels she doesn't bring joy to you and you may be disappointed in her, the reaction is equally as strong. But she has a joie de vivre, which I wish I had a piece of myself. And I love life. I love my profession. I love my family. I love what I do. But she loves life. And this idea of a joie de vivre is something that I would hope that all of us think about. We have this unbelievable opportunity in less than 100 years to live. And sometimes we waste it, myself included. We waste it on a phone. We waste it talking about someone. We waste it questioning ourselves, when instead we have the opportunity to think about something positive, to think about something joyful. And every one of us may see joy differently. What brings you joy may not bring me joy. And I think ultimately what you have to ask yourself first is, what do I see joy in? Is it dancing around with friends? This is my daughter kissing a dolphin. Joyful moment for me. This is me and my daughter just sitting in the kitchen being ridiculous. And there's my joie de vivre, who's just loving life. Accomplishing something, a 5K run for MS. Dancing in the rain. Perhaps blowing bubbles, an experience that maybe you don't get all the time. 2 friends just hanging out, or siblings. Enjoying company. Spending a quiet time with a beloved relative or grandchild. Joy looks different for everybody. Whether it's hanging out with friends, licking an ice pop, which is joyful, or ice cream, it's even better. But again, joy is in us. Each one of us, we have 100 years, hopefully. We have 100 years. We have the opportunity to bring joy to other people. The opportunity to bring elation, happiness. Just by thinking about the word joy, it's going to make us experience it. But we have to try. We can't have others. We can't just do joy because Mr. G says at TED Talk, we have to talk about joy. We have to want it. It can't just be given to you. You have to want and desire joy. And it could be in the simplest of moments. The love of kids, working in a school, the fall, or this perfect example of what joy is. We have it in us. We have to look for it, and hopefully we have to give it. And sometimes we have to think about this idea that I love the question, what if? I love that question. It's a great question. And it's something that we should continue to think about. What if? It's a big part of education. But with joy, it's about the what is. It's about what can we do now. Nothing has to change for us to experience joy or to share joy. I like to say carpe diem, seize the day. I like to say it all the time, but in essence, it's carpe guardium, which is seize the joy. Because our life, as I said, is 100 years. And we have to seize this opportunity to be happy. Every one of you, if I said, do you want to be happy or sad? You would say happy. Well, so you have the power to choose that. You have the power to see joy in things that others don't. And it's not about the circumstances. Circumstances can help make you happy, definitely. But even great circumstances don't make some people happy because they decide it's not about that. It's not that great. It's not about the circumstances, it's about you. And so I hope through this experience and through your experience as young adults, through our experience as adults, that we're able to spread joy in a meaningful way. Most importantly, though, for others and for yourself. Have a great day.